Yang Jian overthrew the Zhou and founded the Sui dynasty with the clear goal of reunifying the realm. But before he could turn his attention south to the Chen kingdom, the Turks beat into it. The Turks were a nomadic people from the steppe. Under northern Zhou, the Yuwen family had kept things friendly through marriage alliances. But once Emperor Wen set up Sui, he cut back on the lavish gifts. That change didn't go unnoticed. The Turkish Khan Shubao declared he was avenging the Zhou. But in truth, the raid in the Kaihuang Year 2 looked a lot more like a scorched earth shopping trip. About 400,000 troops swept into the central plain, looting, burning, and pillaging as they went. Yang Jian dropped his southern plan at once. Two front wars are rarely a good look, and turned to deal with the northern threat. In the field, Shubao forces weren't able to stand up to the Sui. After several clashes, the Turks were beaten. Their empire fractured into eastern and western factions, and for a while the northern border was calmer. Of course, that peace didn't last long. Emperor Wen wasn't the kind of guy to sit still and trust luck. Seeing that the Turks were now split into east and west, he decided to stir the pot a little. He secretly sent envoys loaded with gold and gifts to the Western Turks, bribing them to turn on their eastern cousins. The plan worked like a charm. The two factions fell into brutal infighting, and before long, the great Shubao Khan died of illness. Then came the family drama. His two sons fought tooth and nail for the throne, dragging their people into years of exhausting civil war. By the time the dust settled, the once mighty Turkic power was just a shadow of its former self. Thanks to this well-timed chaos, the Sui northern front was finally safe and quiet. That meant Yang Jian could finally turn his sharp gaze south towards the Chen dynasty, ready to settle the unfinished business of unifying China. In the fifth year of the Kaihuang era, Yang Jian's chance finally came. And interestingly, it all started with a tiny vassal state called Western Liang. Western Liang was small and weak, basically a satellite kingdom that used to serve the northern Zhou, and after Zhou became Sui. It naturally switched loyalty. Everything was peaceful until the Jin Emperor of Western Liang took the throne. This new emperor didn't exactly command much respect. Soon, some anti-Sui factions inside the state started plotting. One of Western Liang's generals even tried to surrender a city to the Chen dynasty. The plan failed, but when Yang Jian heard about it, he was furious. You see, Western Liang's capital was Jianling, a key military base for any campaign to conquer the south. If that place went unstable, the entire southern expedition could fall apart. So Yang Jian made up his mind. It was time to tighten the control. He summoned Emperor Jin to the Sui capital Chang'an, and at the same time sent troops to occupy Jianling. The message was crystal clear. Western Liang was done. No more vassal, just province. Frightened Emperor Jin didn't dare resist and obediently headed to Chang'an. But the moment he left, chaos broke out again. One of his generals led over 100,000 people straight to Chen. The Chen ruler, Chen Shubao, was overjoyed, welcoming them with open arms. When this news reached Chang'an, Yang Jian hit the roof. "So you want to play dirty?" he fumed. "Fine, don't blame me for being ruthless." After hearing about Chen's arrogance, Emperor Yang Jian decided it was time to settle things once for all. But he wasn't reckless. He spent a full 6 months patiently and meticulously planning the southern campaign. By March of 588 AD, all preparations were complete. The Sui Emperor officially announced a massive expedition against the Chen Dynasty. Soon, 510,000 troops were marching south in multiple columns, all heading for the south banks of the Yangtze River. When word reached Chen's capital, Jiankang, the whole court went into panic mode. Ministers argued, generals shouted, and it was chaos. But Emperor Chen Shubao just sat there, smiling calmly. He said, "Our kingdom's destiny lies in Jiankang. The mighty Yangtze River will protect us. What's everyone so worried about? Don't lose sleep over nothing." It was not the kind of pep talk you want before a war, right? So, while the Sui army was mobilizing like a well-oiled machine, the Chen Dynasty was still telling itself a bedtime story. By the following year, Sui troops had already smashed through defenses in the upper reaches of the Yangtze River, and just when Chen needed to hold the line the most, Chen Shubao ordered something truly unbelievable. He called back the fleet stationed at Jiangzhou and Xuzhou, two key strategic strongholds protecting Jiankang's upstream and downstreams. Why? Because it was almost New Year. The emperor wanted his two sons, who were commanding those fleets, to come home for a family reunion dinner. That's right, he literally recalled his army so he could celebrate the holidays. In an instant, those two vital cities turned into empty shells. When Yang Jian heard the news, he probably laughed so hard his nose ran. Victory was practically gift-wrapped. Soon, Sui forces launched a massive offensive across the Yangtze River. The poorly prepared Chen troops were no match and were crushed one after another. Some loyal officials begged the Emperor Chen Shubao to wake up, warning him that if things continued like this, the kingdom would collapse. Chen Shubao, instead of listening, flew into a rage and executed the man on the spot. After that, no one dared to say another word of truth. Before long, the Sui army was right at the gate of Jiankang. Only then did Emperor Chen Shubao finally realize maybe this wasn't going so well. He broke down in tears, crying day and night, saying things like, "I'm a man of peace. Why must they bully me like this?" His generals tried to talk sense into him. "Your Majesty, Jiankang's terrain is naturally strong. We still have over 100,000 troops nearby. If we strike at the Sui's weak points around Storm City, we might still stand a chance." But Chen Shubao wasn't listening. He just shook his head and said no. Instead of fighting, he poured his energy into setting up a 20-mile-long defense line east of the city at Baitu Ridge. It sounded good on paper, but in reality, it was a disaster. General Ren Zhong, who was tasked with defending the line, took one look at the layout and almost fainted. The formation stretched for miles. The front and the rear couldn't even see each other. If they charged us at once, he sighed, "we will be smashed to pieces." And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The Sui army hit hard, and the Chen defense collapsed almost instantly. To make matters worse, one of Chen's top generals, Xiao Moke, wasn't exactly in the mood to fight. Why? Because rumored had it that Emperor Chen Shubao had been having an affair with Xiao Moke's wife. So the man basically went like this, "You know what? I'm done," and surrendered to the Sui dynasty without much of fight. Ren Zhong somehow managed to escape back to the capital, but morale was completely gone. The next day, Sui forces stormed Jiankang, surrounding the palace. Chen Shubao, now fully panicking, pulled out bags of gold and begging Ren Zhong to raise more troops. But Ren Zhong knew the game was over. He couldn't just say, "No one's willing to die for you anymore," so he lied politely. "Your Majesty, the only hope now is for you to flee upriver. I will protect you with my life." Chen Shubao hesitated, then agreed, telling Ren Zhong to prepare quickly. Ren Zhong bowed and said, "Of course," then walked out of the palace and immediately surrendered to the Sui dynasty. By that point, the southern palace was filled with chaos. Most officials had already ran for their lives. Only one man, Yuan Xian, the minister of state, stayed behind to face the end with his emperor. When Chen Shubao saw that everyone else had fled, he was deeply moved. He said to Yuan Xian, "I have never treated you better than others, yet you alone stay. I'm truly ashamed." Before Yuan Xian could reply, the sound of Sui soldiers shouting and charging grew louder and louder outside. Terrified, Chen Shubao decided to hide. Yuan Xian begged him to die with dignity, but Chen Shubao ignored him and ran toward the back of the palace with his two favorite concubines, one of them being the famous beauty Zhang Lihua. They soon found a deep well in the courtyard. With no better options, Chen grabbed the rope and climbed down into the darkness with his two lovers. When the Sui soldier discovered the well, they shouted down and threatened to throw stones. From below came a frightened voice begging, "Don't throw the stone, pull us up." The soldier then hauled them out. Here's where story and folklore take the stage. People later said the two beauties' rouge smeared on the well railing and mysteriously never faded. The well thus became known as Rouge Well, a name that sounds like it belongs in a tragic romance novel. So ended the Chen court. Palace sacked, leaders captured or surrendered, and a dynasty folded like a bad piece of theater. After more than 300 years of division, China was at last reunited under Sui. Yang Jian sealed his place in history. Though, as you know, history has a sense of irony. This same ruler would later make an air decision that helped bring his dynasty down. But that story is for the next time.